Welcome to Beauty and Gratitude. I want to thank each of you for tuning in today. I'm excited about tonight's guest. I have Mariela Garriga, who's an actress originally from Cuba. She's acted in Italy, NYC, Los Angeles, and on a variety of projects. We met actually on an episodic show and just immediately bonded. And she's a very sincere person. A lot of times when you meet people, you want to stay connected with them, and she was one of them. So we stayed connected, and we're both here now in LA and, pursuing our dreams and living our lives. But there's been a human, crisis, a crisis around the world, actually, in many countries, one being in Cuba. So Mariela will talk about that. And also I have Matin Mauliwazada, who's originally from Afghanistan via San Francisco, now living in New York City. He is a celebrity makeup artist, trained though as a scientist, which we'll talk about. Celebrity makeup artist for many decades now, over 2 decades. And he is Afghani, and he has an organization called Afghan Hands. And he'll discuss his organization, and he'll talk about boots on the ground, like what's really going on in Afghanistan, and give us a brief history of Afghanistan as he knows it, and that's well documented as well. So we're going to talk about that and how you can aid and support his petition on change.org and many other avenues to support causes around the world, one being Afghanistan, one being Cuba, and even human rights offenses here in the US, in the United States. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to talk about serious issues today, and we also will think about the beauty of life, the lessons we get from all of this, and also the gratitude we have for rallying together to help one another and to make change. So I want to welcome Mariela Garriga, actress extraordinaire, activist, and just an overall amazing human being. Mariela, welcome to Beauty and Gratitude.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to jump in. I know a little bit about your journey. We met, guys, on an episodic show. I won't say the name. It was a very successful episodic show. And I remember just feeling your energy and your presence and how grounded you are, and I was like, And the more we talked, we exchanged information, we stayed connected once I moved to LA. And thank you for that, number one, because I don't know if you really realize just that one time that we had coffee in Hollywood really just helped me solidify why I was moving to the West Coast, because I wanted to shift from, I have friends here, but knowing actors and actresses here is very important as well, but also very grounded people here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
is very important. So thank you for that.
Thank you for telling me.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Am I ready?
But you know what I mean? When people take times out of their life, I know that you're married, I know you have a life, you're busy. When people take time to actually connect with other human beings, I think that's a very precious gift and very authentic,
Yeah,
So.
that's true. And coming from where I'm from, that is Cuba, I need that. I need to have human contact and really share experience. And besides jobs and everything, but the human part of us that connect all of us, I need.
Yes.
And sometimes in our industry, you miss it. So yeah, every time I find a true person, I just attach to that person, and you
Yeah.
are a true
I
human.
get it. Thank you. And like I said, I'm gonna have you guys over for dinner, and I'm not kidding about that. It's because I have Sunday dinners every other week. So I try to keep it small because of COVID, but cook everything from scratch and just sit and commune with one another. I think you definitely do in Cuba, right? And then in Italy, of course,
Yeah.
Yes, it's all about family and dinners and everything. So you're from Havana, Cuba, yes?
Yes.
Okay, how long have you, I know you left, how old were you when you left Cuba?
I was 19 to 20.
19 to 20. And did you start acting right away, or were you modeling?
No, in Cuba, I was a dancer. I was working in theater and television. And sometimes I did some advertising campaigns and some shows for modeling because they pay good. Even in Cuba, they foreign people comes from outside. and it used to pay good for the Cuban standard. And I was dancing in the meantime, and then a talent scout saw me in one audition and wanted me to go to Italy. And I was like, I didn't believe like it was gonna happen, but I gave it a try. It was like a huge crisis in 2009 around the
Yes.
world. So I was like, let's give it a try and see. And now I'm like, I'm more than 18 and I can defend myself. So
Right.
I went there and I started like dancing and modeling, and then I discovered acting.
Wow. So when you say dancing, ballet dancer, because Cuba's known for their ballet dancers, so more ballet or modern?
Yeah, I was like in a mix of everything because again, it's everything in my life happened like a consequence of like someone saw me, you know, telling a scout. So the director of the ballet in Cuba, television ballet in Cuba, saw me, and she thought that I had the qualities for a dancer, and I was like, I've never danced in my life. Like I'm Cuban, but you know, so so she invited me to get classes if I was interested, and if I was good in 6 months, I would will win this contract to be part of the company. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go and see. And when I got there, the first class, I saw the real dancers, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're like floating in the air. I want to do that. And I was
Yeah.
like, it was like 15, so it was good for me. So I really focused on that for 6 months and went to kids school as well for ballet.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had twice. I had to switch between the company and the real classes
Yes.
to get like at the same level that the other dancers were, because they
Wow.
studied the whole life. So I spent 6 months like that, and after 6 months, I got my contract, and I danced professionally for 3 years.
Mariela, that's amazing. I grew up dancing as well in high school. So to hear this and that the teacher had the foresight to know that you had the talent is pretty amazing. And ballet is such a discipline, as you know. It is
Yes. Yeah.
such a discipline.
That helped me a lot in my life because it was in that period of my life that you have to be disciplined to build, you know, for the future. And
Yes.
it helped me a lot. And how am I today with my organizing everything and discipline? I think ballet gave me that.
Yes.
So I'm grateful for that. Even though I'm not a dancer today, I can dance, but I'm not a dancer. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like I owe a lot to that period of my life, and
Wow.
that's it. And that's it.
Wow.
And then I moved to Italy. I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to go to the university and study archaeologist, but a
Mhm.
casting director again saw me, had
Mhm.
me
Wow.
an audition, and pushed me to start studying. And okay, sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No, it's good. I'm gathering a lot of information, which is great because I don't know if you see this, but I'm a very spiritual person. I do believe that angels guide us through our process, and I do think you had angels, earthly angels and celestial, guiding you on your journey,
Yeah.
casting directors, you know, whatever, leading you to from Cuba to Italy to here.
Yeah, I think so, because everything that happened in my life, in my career, in
Mhm.
the different levels, modeling, dancing, and everything was a consequence of like someone saw me and believed in me, and then I tried and then I believed I could do it, and I got passionate about that, and I tried
Yes.
to keep going, and then it became my job every time, and I keep changing, you know, evolving.
Yeah.
So and that happened with acting. I went to that theater class and I was like, oh my God, I need to
Yeah.
do this. It's like, it's the best that we can do as human, to connect with our interior and say it out loud, like, you know,
Yeah.
defend those souls,
Yeah.
right? And I know maybe we're gonna talk about Cuba a little bit later, but in
A
this
lot.
moment,
Mhm.
when I speak for the first time about my life in front of people that I didn't know, because in Cuba you're not allowed to say everything, you know.
Right.
So
Right. It's
you have
censored.
to,
Yes.
you have to not say what, like everything that you're feeling, because it can be trouble.
Hmm.
So when I got to that theater class, the coach put me on stage and I was like, no, I'm only auditing. And he was like, if you don't try it, you're never gonna know if you like it. So he put me
Right.
on stage and he was like, tell me a little bit about your life in Cuba, not here in Italy, you know.
Right.
I started talking about Cuba and about the situation of my family and everything. And it's like a liberation of whatever I had inside for so long. And he told me, if you don't want to be an actress, because I didn't want to be an actress at that point, come here and take me as a therapist because you need to speak. You need to say things. You have a lot inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the rest is history. And
Wow. You know, acting is therapy in many ways. It is processing all of your angels and your demons within, you know, I think. Often when we meet great actors and see great actors, they're incarnate, right?
Mhm.
They're incarnate true emotion and whatever that is, you know. I want to talk about Cuba because I know they've had many crises through the years,
Yeah.
but recently there's a lot going on. So I want you to explain it to our viewers, like what exactly is going on the ground in Cuba? I know there's food shortages, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And not, I mean, there are other foreign entities there, like Europeans and Asians as well. And I know we have an embargo, allegedly.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on the ground. So,
Yeah, the situation in Cuba has been very bad for so long, you know, like since I wasn't born. So,
yeah,
and it was a crisis in the 90s, when Russia stopped helping us. And we survived along the years, thinking
right,
that something's going to change and hoping that something's going to change. Before we had hope, and we had teachers and doctors that really work for to help and in the schools and the hospitals. But now
right,
everyone is so diluted and everyone is so uh, enough, you know, they are like overwhelmed with like everything that is happening, that no one wants to teach, no one wants to go to the hospitals to cure, because they're risking their lives and they don't get paid to sustain their families. So they start doing other jobs, side
right.
jobs, that a doctor can be selling peanuts in the street, you know.
Oh,
So and COVID, you know, the tourism, Cuba is an island, so the tourism was a very good thing for Cuba, and it was helping. So with COVID, everything
mhm,
aggravates. So it's
right.
like I don't know how you say it in English, that in the cake,
Mhm.
the ice in the cake.
The icing on the cake, yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
icing on the cake. That was COVID in Cuba now. So since they closed all the borders, it's been closed for 8 months now. Like they closed for 6 months and then open, and then the big wave of COVID arrived because like many people were infected coming inside Cuba.
Right,
And now they are getting more cases than ever and more death than ever. So it's very sad. And since they are closed, there are not food coming in, they're not medicine, and
right,
whatever they have is very bad. Whatever they have, they sell it to the population in
right, right.
in dollars.
And dollars.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's very bad because Cubans in Cuba, they don't have dollars. Now
Right.
they just changed it recently, like 2 weeks ago. Like they cannot pay with dollars anymore, but now it's with euros. It's insane.
That doesn't,
I don't know what is happening, and of course, people cannot deal with this anymore. So they are going to the streets and go to like to scream for their freedom,
right,
you
right,
know,
right,
for freedom of speech, freedom to tell the world what is happening, a change. They would like some change, but the government is not listening.
right.
So they're starting to do some changes in
Mm-hmm.
favors of who I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
um, but uh, but yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult situation.
It's a very difficult situation. And actually, as you were talking, I was getting anxiety. My heart is racing because it makes me, it hurts first and foremost, and it makes me angry. Um, because how can you charge people dollars and euros when you know they don't make that currency? You
Yeah.
know, it's like you're starving and you're killing them in many ways, you know. But I know that I have friends, I have a lot of Cuban friends here, mostly in New York. and you here in LA. And I know for sure that sometimes they take trips often when they
Yes.
can to get to Cuba and bring supplies and clothing, etc. But they haven't been able to due to COVID. So I know it's a dire situation. I know you met Allende via emails and texts and everything. I mean, he had that resource of like getting just basic supplies to friends and family. Are there any national or international organizations that people can donate to, or not donate, even not even financial, but even donate, get resources to people?
Okay, the donation situation is very shady.
Okay.
Because
Mm.
sometimes not, it doesn't arrive. Or
Right.
it arrived to the hands, it passed through the government before, and then they might sell, for example, the medicines to the population. Or there are private people now in Cuba that they have contacts, and they are getting the medicines and the food and money even directly. And they also posted all, like, everything that they do and who they give it to and everything. And I think that's a very great way, because it's people to people.
Yes.
They give the medicine. They're like people like me, actors like me in Spain or Italy, that they are getting like big magazines of medicines, and they are going like step by step in Cuba, because now with the manifestation that happened, the government allowed, like, you can enter to Cuba with like the amount of medications you want. They don't gonna stop
Oh,
until
okay.
December. You can enter with like a ton of medicines, and they cannot tax you or do anything. So people are getting medicine and everything to send to Cuba. Or for example, if we Cuban know each other, if some Cubans are seeing me, like, contact like via Instagram now is a very good resource. And okay, do you know someone that has ibuprofen, for example? Do you have someone, and you put that person in contact with this other person? There is
Right.
my uncle that is in the hospital with COVID, for example. Do you know someone that have, I don't remember that, this happened to me actually, not my uncle, but my friends, and I don't remember the name of the medicine.
Monoclonal, the antibody, or either the remdesivir, I think it's called.
It was something, yeah, it's something like that, but it's in
Okay.
Spanish. And she posted on Instagram, and I was like, okay, I know a doctor that maybe you can go to that hospital and they can give you 2 pills at least last night,
Right. Right.
So it's like a word of mouth. And there is also this place, Caritas. I'm gonna send you the link. Caritas,
Okay.
they're a foundation, and they are like they go through the church.
Good. Okay.
So they're able to help.
Okay, that's great. It's it's interesting, like the whole medication thing, even here in the US, if you are not well insured, there are certain things they won't even tell you if you have COVID. A friend's uncle has COVID right now. He's very, very sick. And I said, well, I named 3 drugs. I said, did they offer him any of these things? Because they could literally in 48 hours, it could turn his health around. I'll send you the link as well, Mariela. It's amazing, these 3 drugs. And they give you one of them, not all of them. No. And I was like, wait, this guy his oxygen is at 65%, and you haven't offered him something that could boost his immune system and save his life because he's uninsured.
Wow.
He's in a very poor part of America. And sadly, I had to send it to his nephew. I said, make sure your family in this town walks us into the hospital and demands this for your uncle, because 65% oxygen is almost near death, And I'm like, why would you not offer him these things? And it just dawned on me. I'm like, he doesn't have the money. If he had the money, they would have given him an entree, And I don't want this interview to be negative, but I want people to be aware that if you don't have access, it is a matter of life and death, here in the US, as well as in Cuba and other parts of the world. Thank you for Caritas. That's a good resource, because I think a lot of those type of organizations allow people to bring in a lot of things: medicine, clothing, food, etc.
Church is a good thing.
Yes. We We hope.
Yeah, but I think that it's
It
not
is.
about to make the interview negative, but it's like just tell the truth about like really from people that are from there and you that are from here, and is we're living this thing, and we're not saying this is happening because someone told
Right.
me. We are saying this because we experienced, and
And
we
family, yeah.
have the family that are suffering that. So it's good that people know the reality.
You know, I think, Mariela, the universe knew you would be a fighter. So it allowed you to leave Cuba through Italy and now here. That's why the success and the things open up for you, because they knew you would be a warrior for your people. So I really believe that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
wow.
feeling that too. I'm starting to believe that.
No, I think sometimes that's why people's, Mateen will come on later and he'll talk about Afghanistan. He was a refugee in the 80s and came to America, and his family worked really hard and he went to school to become a scientist and wanted to be an artist. And he's a makeup artist for the past 20 years, but he's a trained scientist. And through makeup, he was able to meet Angelina Jolie through all her activism. And he started his own org. She inspired him to do his own org, but he is a warrior as well for his people in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of information that I get from his Instagram compared to news is mind-boggling. How much real info he gets compared to what we get that's filtered,
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I think we all like, especially us that comes from another like countries in difficulties, we have to amplify the voices of the people that are there, the real ones,
yes.
and to make the world knows, and don't get overwhelmed if like not everyone that shared or something, because the world is dealing with so much right now.
Yeah.
In every
Yes.
country there is a problem, and there is a huge a huge things to break down, and the planet, like everything that is happening with the animals and the environment. So I think us from if we defend our people that
Mm-hmm.
our life, we do that and side a little bit of what is happening with the planet, with the environment, like in side by side, not letting other things like go because you only can
Right.
care about your people,
Right.
but it's true that is so many things happening right now that is so sad, like you cannot keep up with every day something happen,
Right. That's
but
true.
especially like we have to be aware that we are humans before all, and
Yes.
we have to have what humans lack today is empathy, because
Yes. Yeah.
it's not happening in your country or in where you live. It's not happening, oh my gosh, it's not happening,
Right.
so I think our responsibility is to try to amplify everything around the world and give the right things and the truth, not things that you heard from someone,
Right.
um, and the truth, and educate people, and but especially people from your place, from your country, because
Right. Right.
it's your roots. So it's like it's a balance that we have to have today, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I think if we all do a little bit for everything, and
Mm-hmm.
especially for our countries, it'll
Right.
get better.
That's true. And I think it's often that people, like a lot of Cubans have been explaining, like in the South and Florida, New York, what's going on. And for the first time, it hit me and I got it. Because as African Americans, and I have to be very honest, sometimes they can sensationalize and uphold, oh my God, I just blanked on his name, Castro, you
Yeah,
know, and I'm like, guys, he's not some hero, Maybe ideally in the past, how he thought, maybe it was great, but right here, right now, when your people, he's no longer with us, but when your people are starving, and your people need resources, and you're not allowing them to grow, what is that? What is that? You
yeah,
know?
I think the best thing in the world is to um I lost the word right now, but it
Mhm.
is to realize and be tell the truth, in a sense, like when you realize that you're wrong,
Right. Right.
Just accepting that and just let it go.
Right.
It's a great thing, because as you said, as an idealization, it
Yes.
could what he wanted to do, but it didn't work. And
Right.
it's time to move on,
Right.
And what in specific in my country need to happen is that these people realize that it didn't work, and you see it. There is proof. There is not like something that we
Yeah.
invent. Is proof. So if it
Right.
didn't work, just change a strategy and be with your people,
Right. Exactly. Wow. You know what? I'm going to end it on that note. Change
Oh,
the strategy and be with your people and help your people grow and evolve. And the reason I did this show is really to educate and to look at the beauty of life, of course, the grace of life, but also look at reality. And we are all human beings. There are really no borders. We set the borders, right? Language is language, but when you look someone in the eye and they're happy or they're sad or they're struggling, it's a human experience. So I want to thank you, Mariela. Thank you.
you. Thank you for me.
I know this will touch a lot of lives. I really believe so.
Well, I want
Yes.
to finish with something, as you said, like human, right? At the end
Mhm.
of the day, like we all need water to live. We all need food to live. So we are the same,
Exactly. Exactly.
Everywhere in the world, we
Yeah.
are a being that we need those two things to survive. So what is
Yes.
the difference,
The basic necessities, the basic and air.
Society
Yeah.
make us different.
Yeah.
Society.
Yeah. We put the borders up. We put the bullshit. Excuse my French. But that's what we do as humans. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you for having me. I hope to see you soon.
Yes. And how can we reach you on Instagram?
Oh, yeah. My name and last name, Mariela, Mariela,
Okay.
underscore Garriga, Garriga.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Life is full of moments. And when sickness breaks your momentum, from the 5 a.m. stomach bug, or stress and anxiety at work, don't forget you have Teladoc. Great care options by phone, video, or app. 24/7 access to doctors. And access to therapists 7 days a week. From anywhere you are. Day or night. Whatever it is, we're always ready to help. So you can get back to enjoying life's best moments faster. Life is good. Enjoy it well.
Visit a doctor today without even leaving your home. For as little as $19.95 per month for a family plan, you get access to board-certified physicians as often as you need it. And there's $0 for medical visits anytime, anywhere. Register now by visiting solivity.com/health perks. That's solivity.com/health perks. You can find all the Satana products at our Go shop on Solivity at go.solivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Solivity.
Hello, everyone. I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, Matin Mauliwazada, an amazing makeup artist, trained scientist, actually, which we'll talk about a little bit, and an overall good human being, activist, and especially for the people of Afghanistan with Afghan Hands. And we'll talk about Afghan Hands as well as his citation for change.org to really approach your congressmen and women about doing something. So let's bring in Matin. Hi, Matin.
Hello, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
Oh, it's been one of those weeks, another 2 weeks of it. So it's for the last 3 weeks, it feels like it's been years because, you know, as an Afghan, you literally have gotten very little sleep, and whoever that finds you, whether it's in social media or get your number from someone, you wake up in messages, can you help me? Can you help me get out? Can you help me hide? Is there a safe house? Like these kind of messages that are just jarring and you're not used to, because our day-to-day life here doesn't really involve that. So it's been eye-opening and interesting and heartbreaking. But you know, it's there are times like this that you realize that they really do think of us as others or them, and it's not, you know, we're not included in the rest of the world, and blatantly they give an entire country to people that they deem terrorists. And it's interesting. Today they announced their cabinet, and 2 of their cabinet members are in, one is an FBI most wanted list. He is the Minister of Interior Affairs, I think. And another one is in the Human Rights Watch. So those are cabinet members of the government that the US literally handed Afghanistan to.
Right, right.
So it's that kind of a time. It's a time for Afghans to wake up and to realize that, you know, everything up to now was a transaction. It was a transaction between people that we had nothing to do with. We didn't have anything to do with it in 9/11, and yet we paid the highest price for it. We were used for probably the world's largest money laundering through military, what do you call it? Contracts. Thank you, because I can't speak anymore. So you have to be my vocabulary. So we are realizing a lot of things that we didn't just because we had good faith. And so it's becoming clearer and clearer in the next, you know, in the last few weeks, we have realized that. And then, you know, at this point, we need to mobilize not just ourselves, but the people of the world, not the governments, because we have cried and we have formed hotlines, crisis text numbers.
Right.
We've written to congressmen, we have written to our reps, and we get the same thing. We're heartbroken for Afghanistan. We don't need you to be heartbroken. We need you to do something.
Action.
Act, exactly. So, and nothing happened. And every day we woke up with worse news and worse news. So at this point, I honestly believe, and that's what the petition was about, that it's not up to the government. The UN and the governments are not doing anything. They are all part of the same scheme. They're all part of the same elite group that decide only what's good for them only. And it's up to the people of the world, all of us, whether we are in the West, whether we are in America, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, Australia. It's the actual everyday people that have the power to vote, to put together something as an entire collective voice, as a global voice, to put pressure on whether it's UN or the governments or wherever you live. They're like, well, I mean, right now I don't, unfortunately, because of the timing and how scared people.
I lost you.
And they don't want to say the wrong thing. It's because people are so scared of politics and people are so worried about saying the wrong things, they'd rather say nothing. But when it comes to human rights issues and when it comes to life and death, people should really talk.
Speak up.
Yeah. And so this petition was about that, to just kind of bring a global voice together and then show our governments, like, look, we have I'm hoping we'll have, 5 million signatures here. Why aren't you doing something about this? Bring it to the news, bring it to, newspapers, bring it to media. So kind of put pressure that way as people of Earth, not as governments of Earth, because the governments of Earth is for themselves and for lining their own pockets. No matter where you look at, no matter where you go, it's about that. So at this point,
you have to support people. Like, I noticed like a lot of rallies for Afghani people, for Cuban, for Black Lives Matter, all of that. You don't see a cross sections of the groups helping each other, speaking for each other. And it's like, you should be on the street as well, marching,
absolutely,
and yelling and screaming. But a lot of people don't, because they're looking out for their own interests, and that benefits governments,
Absolutely. Well, this is the one thing that came really clear for me is the conquer and divide strategy that the British used forever in those parts of the world and passed it on to the Americans, and they do the same thing. And I posted something on Joe Biden when he was rallying for the Afghan war to basically get the funding for his friends. This is back in the, I don't know when he was vice president, I think, or he was congressman. He literally talks, and these are his exact words, that we need a nation building mission, because without it will be terrorism and chaos. And then I remember that 2 weeks ago, he said, we were never in Afghanistan for a nation building mission. So when you see this kind of 180-degree shift, you realize, where you stand and how they lie always. So whether it's Democrat or Republican, they've all lied to us this way. And we realize that this conquer and divide, and he also gaslit Afghans as nationalists, that our groups don't get along. Well, our groups got along just fine until the war started. And then ever since then, they fueled this kind of, oh, you're Tajik, you're Pashtun, you're,
Yeah, because it works here, Matin.
Of course,
it works here.
Absolutely.
It's the perfect formula. I want to sidetrack just a little bit. I want you to describe Afghanistan before the Russians, before the Americans came in. What were the women like to you?
Afghanistan was interesting. I mean, when I was growing up, it was a capsule of time that never was before and never will be again. It was a very, strange 50 years of freedom for some, but you had to be of a elite, I wouldn't say elite in a way of, like, when you think of rich people in America, it's a very different rich. Afghanistan was never like that. Now they are, because they're drug dealers. But back in the day, you had, people that were well off, they were professionals, they were educated. So there was this Western lifestyle that was being adopted. And this is, I would say, my dad's generation started that. Like my mom's generations were the first that really started like going out without scarves. But Afghan, traditionally, they would have a scarf around them. They would have, modest dressing, and then throughout, I would say from the 20s on, women started showing in public without headscarves. At one point, it was mandatory not to wear it in Kabul, because when Shah Amanullah started, one of the reasons he was ousted is because he was really radically trying to westernize the country, and people didn't take kindly to it. And this was in 1920s. His wife was the one who would show up in court. She was actually one of his closest advisors politically as well. And she would show without headscarves. She would show with sleeveless shirts. And then that became a trend. And a lot of women that were in Kabul and in bigger cities, they started wearing nylons and dresses and dress Western. And by the time the 70s hit, when I was growing up as a child, I mean, it could have been anywhere. It could have been Lebanon, Beirut at that time. It could have been Paris. It could have been, I mean, everywhere was like that. Tehran was like that. Kabul was one of the most beautiful cities. It was known for its gardens. So people
Oh, wow.
from South Asia would come in to vacation in Kabul during summer because the air was so pure and so beautiful, and the gardens were, I mean, magnificent. So it was, when I was growing up, again, it was a capsule of time, and that kind of lifestyle was afforded for a very small group of people. But the rest were comfortable, and they were free, and they had a choice. So whether they wanted to wear a full burqa, nobody bothered them. And if they wanted to wear a miniskirt, nobody bothered them. It was never, no one judged each other. No one threw stone at each other. Nobody said anything to each other. So it was just like a very accepting, free society. The only place that felt like home to me when I went was Marrakesh.
Right.
Or maybe Istanbul, but more, Istanbul is so advanced in a way, it's not as traditional anymore, but it's that kind of like West and East living together at the same place. Marrakesh has that feel of what Kabul was in the 70s. So if you have ever traveled to a place like that, you will know what I mean. You go 10 minutes out of your way and you're in a different century. And you come back to a complete modern society. And which was really special and really beautiful. Because you had choices, and you had, you could be whatever you wanted to be then.
Right. Wow. It's an education, man. I have a lot of questions here. So what do you think, how can people help in a humanitarian way? I know you have your organization, Afghan-raised.org. What other organizations do you think they can get
with
involved?
Afghan Hands, I'm trying to switch over our bylaws to make it now work with, whether it's like a displaced person or a refugee that's coming here, or we don't know right now what we can do, because we're not on the ground. We've been scattered completely right now. So we're trying to see how we can allocate our resources and my personal being. Basically, I am the resource right now for Afghan Hands. Is to whether we have to start underground schools, maybe for girls, maybe we could do, so it's going to channel to something completely different. And so we're trying to see what we can do to support women in Afghanistan or even outside Afghanistan, maybe safe houses, maybe, some kind of refuge for women that need to run away from forced marriages. We don't know yet. So right now, I am not actively fundraising for that, but I am in contact with groups that are actually on the ground doing things. So for the last 2 weeks, until they closed the banks, I was very heavily supporting five different organizations that were on the ground in Kabul distributing food for internally displaced refugees. And then we raised even more money for them to send them back to their villages. So that was another thing, because they fled to Kabul when Taliban were passing through their villages and killing them and forcing their sons to join them and forcing their daughters to marry them. So then they all moved to Kabul, and then they were living in parks and in mosques. And then last week, after the Taliban completely took over, then the same organizations chartered buses and send them back to their provinces so they can go home, because at least the Taliban were out of there and they were all concentrated in Kabul. So it's, literally every day we're doing a different mission. Right now, I just posted about a fundraiser in Panjshir, which is the place that everybody took refuge, whether you're a Hazara, which is a ethnic minority in Afghanistan that have been persecuted for hundreds of years, forever, for as long as we know. They've never had a fair share of a fair life at Kabul. And then also the Hindus, Sikhs, Ismailis, like these are minorities, Tajiks, anybody who's not a Talib or Pashtuns that are against Taliban, they all have to somehow, be somewhere. And Panjshir Valley it's an hour north of Kabul. So it was the only place that has never been conquered.
Oh, wow.
So people actually, there was a report that 30,000 refugees came to Panjshir one day. In one day, that was a couple of weeks ago. So the news is just spotted because there's no reception there. So they went in there, and so now we're, I posted that because I wanted people to donate to this cause, because there's no resources. The Panjshir Valley is this tiny little valley with, a few 100,000 people living in it, if that.
Wow.
It's just very long. It goes from north of Kabul all the way to eastern Afghanistan, which is Jalalabad area, Nangarhar, and Kunar. So there's two valleys that go.
Hello?
It's never been conquered by the Russians or by the Taliban before. This time around, however, I don't know what the status is right now because I was working and I couldn't really look for news. This time around, they had allegedly Pakistani drones bombing Panjshir Valley, and they had they even claimed that they actually found the body of a general that is Pakistani in the battlefield. So it's, and we're dealing with that this time around. So we're not just it's not just soldier to soldier combat, it's technology against people. And the technology is obviously American technology. And and ISI is supported by the CIA and by the US. So it's this kind of convoluted thing, which, with the September 11 anniversary coming, I can't believe to this day they're still holding Afghanistan responsible for harboring Osama, but not Saudi Arabia for funding it, and not Pakistan for training them, and definitely no accountability of the CIA training them the whole time.
Right.
So this is something that is really, it needs to come out at some point. I don't have that power in the voice, but somebody needs to do this. There are voices in the news coming out and here and there, but for some reason, with the American public, I feel like if you tell the same lie so many times, people buy it.
They believe it.
They believe it. That's what happened with Trump, and this is happening with Biden, and it's absolutely amazing. How they just lie over and over and over, and hope that people. But D'Angelo, I have to say, I have faith in people. I think sooner or later, everybody's going to know the truth. The truth always comes out, no matter what you do.
It does, and whether you choose to believe it or not, it will, show itself. It will show itself.
Absolutely.
Now, Matin, how can we reach you? I know on Instagram and then Afghan Hands. Can you tell us?
Yes. So Afghan Hands was right now a project that was geared to help women that were sole supporters of their families. So after the war, when I went back, after the war and after Taliban, the one sector of public or population that was most vulnerable and most needed for to have income was the widows, because there was a lot of men that died and their widows were left with families and no way of finding jobs. You have to realize Taliban closed schools last time. So for the, I would say at that time, for the entire generation grew up without education. You can't get a job without even a high school degree, or these women were completely illiterate. They couldn't even read a document. So, so we would bring them to a grade 6 literacy, numeracy. We would teach them their rights. We would teach them what was their right according to Islam, because that was the one thing that Taliban are doing now. It's like, oh, Islam says that you have to do this. Islam says, well, no, the Islam that we read, that we actually study, doesn't say that. That's your Islam, or whoever's teaching you, because you obviously never picked up the book to read it, and you just kind of regurgitate whatever your bosses told you. So we basically train them with that kind of knowledge that's saying, and, slowly, as soon as they started bringing a little income to the family, because they still lived with their in-laws. But the only way that they could really survive and justify their existence was that they would work as a servant, basically, from the morning till they go to sleep, just to justify being in somebody's house and, and their kids being raised there. So this way they started contributing financially, like their brother-in-laws did, or, like their husbands that were alive were contributing to the household income. And it became, it was kind of amazing to see the changes in their lives. Not only in their lives, in their postures, in their faces, like you wouldn't even recognize them in a year because of their confidence, the way they sat up, the way they looked at you in the eye. Because at the beginning they would look down and they were very like, you know, shy and broken. And then slowly they would just blossom, and they would have a voice at home because they were assets now. They were not liabilities anymore for their families. So it became really, it was a magical process to watch and to see. And I'm just so honored that I got to see it.
Yes.
You know, I didn't achieve the lofty goals that I had because, you know,
changed lives.
Well, to a point, but I mean, I had lofty ideas of like literally opening an entire center in a big school and fighting illiteracy and bringing men and women to be literate and to, you know, to work during the day, to study at night and to have a high school diploma. And those were my ideas. But unfortunately, the security kept deteriorating more and more. It got to a point that these women were begging me not to send them to regular schools. And we didn't have the capacity to go past grade 6 because then you had to get science teachers and books, and you had to get foreign languages and like all of these things that we didn't have the capacity to do in a room that we were renting in a little neighborhood. So our deal was that up to grade 6, we'll bring them up. And after that, we'll give them a stipend, and they can get this stipend, go to school at the same time, get their high school degree. A few did, but a lot of them came back and begged because Taliban were throwing acid on their faces, and they were really scared. There were some bombings of the schools. I'm sure you've seen girls' schools, especially in the areas that a lot of Hazaras live. So it was that kind of a sadness that happened with Afghan Hands. But again, we're not giving up. We're gonna redirect. We're gonna do you know, some kind of capacity building somehow. Going forward. I actually have an appointment tomorrow to talk to a friend of mine that has ideas on what we can do, because she just came back. She just came out of Afghanistan, like literally like one of the last planes. So we'll talk. But it's, you know, so that's the Afghan Hands thing. About myself, I mean, of course, I'm in social media. I'm pretty active there, and you can clearly see where I stand.
At It's Matin, guys. At It's Matin on IG.
Yeah, ITSMATIN. And I, you know, it's interesting to see because, you know, I normally post beauty and funny things, and I'm not the kind of makeup artist that only have faces like one after the other, and it's not all makeup.
It's balance.
Yeah, because I have, you know, my dogs, and I post sceneries. I love furniture. I love textiles. So I kind of make it, to me, you know, everybody's page in Instagram is like a magazine, basically. It's a curated magazine according to me. So I try to make it like a magazine, whether it's a stories or that. But in the last 3 weeks, unfortunately, it's been very dark and sad and political. So I've gotten a lot of criticism about it, but also a lot of praise. There was a lot of people that were very thankful because they could find certain resources that they didn't know before. And so I got a lot of those kind of, you know, thank you notes that, oh my God, I didn't even know about this. Thank you for telling me. Or you know, snippets of like history. The saddest thing, D'Angelo, right now is with our society, and it's not just America, it's everywhere. They have conditioned this. And I think it's all, I know it's completely conspiratory bullshit, but honestly, I think they've conditioned us not to read anymore, not to have attention span, only to look at something for 20 seconds and then scroll up. And we get bored if it's anything other than funny or cute puppy or a kitten or beauty or product. Anything that is real, anything that hurts us, anything that hurts other people, we just scroll
keep
up.
Moving. Or left or right.
Yeah, and then even if we hear it in the news, there's a cycle of 48 hours attention span, and then it kind of goes away, and it's not trendy anymore. So I think it's deliberate that they're making us like this. That way we don't care as much as we should, and that way we can't get involved.
It's
the way we did in the 60s.
Programming. Mm-hmm.
It really is. It really is. So as much as things like social media have been a great instrument on spreading a message or messages about what's going on the ground there, it also, I think, has, for most, especially the younger ones that really didn't grow up with these things, and they only know this kind of life of happiness or fake happiness, or this avatar of ourselves. When they only grow up with this, I don't think they even understand what people actually go through in the world or in their neighborhood. Because it becomes, it's this fake environment that we create, because even my background could be fake very easily.
Right, true.
Right? So it's just, you can green screen anything now. So it's that kind of we live in an avatar type of world, and in that world, reality is not allowed. And I really think it's been planned for years and years, and this is the outcome of it. And it's going to get worse, of course, until we all wake up and really care for each other.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
And on that note, I'm going to say thank you to Matin, and also just being a warrior light, not only here in the US, but also for the people of Afghanistan. Thank you so much. And also to Mariela Garriga for coming on and talking about Cuba and her personal experiences there, as well as her family who is currently there, and how you can help through Casitas. And check out Matin, Afghan.org, Afghanhands.org, and @itsmatin on Instagram. Thank you, guys. Cool.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Solivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
You've all done autism awareness training, but what did you really become aware of? That autistic people have obsessive and repetitive behaviours, have trouble making eye contact, don't really make friends easily? It's time for that form of training to go, because what everybody needs, whether it's autistic children or adults in the workplace, is acceptance. So what I would like you to do is to think of everything that you've ever learned about autism and autistic people, crump it all up and throw it away, because This is something completely different. It's an entirely new model of training. It's about neurodiversity, it's about acceptance, and it's how autistic people like me and everyone else out there can grow to live happy and successful lives in school and in the workplace. My name's Jude Morrow, and